nonsense in the chaos. Wicked witches. Trusting the unknown.
Welcome to the Nonsense in the Chaos. I'm your host, Jolie Rose. I'm feeling extremely disruptive. I'm not sure what it is I'm going to do, or I don't even know what I want to do, although I definitely know the area, but I'm just feeling very disruptive. I feel like tank girling it somehow. Don't know how, don't know what, but I'm done with this. And I'm feeling really disruptive. And I want to do it through art, and I want to do it softly and gently and lovingly and kindly. And yeah, I'm extremely excited about going on the pilgrimage, which will be the start of September. So I'll be walking for September and October. And I'm probably going to need to do some crowdfunding for it. I also want to raise money for charity, and I will feel into and look into which charities I'll support, because I do struggle with supporting charities because I used to work in the charity fundraising sector, and there are things about it that are very problematic in terms of data and what happens to your data, because I was one of those people that had to make the phone calls to hassle you to put more money in and stuff. So I know what happens to your data, and I know how it's used. And so I'm probably not going to be fundraising for any of the big charities, but there are lots of little charities that don't take your data and who I can just make a donation to. And yeah, so I need to feel into who I will be sending the money to, but I would like to fundraise we're walking for 2 months, 500 miles. So it's a good fundraising opportunity, but we also are going to need to raise funds each of us will need to do a fundraiser to cover some of our costs, because obviously we've got to pay bills for those 2 months that we're away, and then afford to live while we're on the road. We'll be doing it as cheaply as possible. So the premise is it's the pilgrimage for peace, and we will be walking from Cairnlebole down near Land's End all the way to Hopton-on-Sea on the Norfolk coast along the Michael line. And there's the two energy lines, which are Mary and Michael, and then there's the ley line, which is called the Michael line. And if you live along that route, then we would love to connect with you, and we will be performing a play of George and the Dragon, which is a traditional Mumma's play that we'll be working together to create a new performance of. Every time it's performed by different people, it's different. And I'm looking forward to creating it with the people that I'm going to be walking with. I feel like it's going to be a very playful, silly group, that we're going to be doing some really silly, lovely. I want to be frivolous and, what's the word? Oh, it will come to me. But yeah, what's the word? Irreverent, that's the word. I had to go. That was going to annoy me too much. Irreverent. An irreverent performance of George and the Dragon, but we're walking, like the play George and the Dragon is about the Holy Wars. So St. George, who was from the Arabic lands, I think he's even from Palestine, to be honest with you. He is our patron saint, and our oldest story is of Crusader Knight who can't deal with his own inner demons and wild part of himself, which is represented by the dragon. And the dragon is the land, because the energy lines are called dragon lines. The Chinese call their energy lines dragon lines, and you're not allowed to build on them, and only the emperors are allowed to have structures on them. And even now, when they were building Hong Kong, they created skyscrapers with holes in them so that the dragon energy could pass through. And then you have Aborigines doing walkabout, and they have the rainbow serpent is their most powerful story. So this energy line and earth energy is very dragon focused. That for me is what the dragon represents, is this wild natural energy. And by denying that part of ourselves and pretending to be civilized and, not horrible, warty beasts that we are, he suppresses that. And so he then starts to perceive evil in the world and then sees that as Beelzebub. And by slaying Beelzebub, he then starts to see evil in other things, which is Mary Tinker, which is the feminine, the divine feminine. And then is it then the Saracen Knight? Yeah, then it's the Saracen Knight. So the Saracen Knight is a Muslim. And so he then fights the Muslim, but the Muslim kills him. And then he's brought back to life again by a kind of lefty quack doctor, but who's a herbalist, who gives him elecampane, which is an elixir of life, and brings him back to life again. And I see it as this kind of perpetual cycle that the UK is always in, where we start perceiving evil in the world and we create enemies, and they're often focused on the Holy Lands and Muslims. And then we get our fingers burnt, we realise that we've done something bad, and we turn a bit lefty and hippie and herbalisty for a little while, and then forget, a couple of generations pass, we forget, and then crack back on with being arseholes again. And we're at towards the end of one of these cycles currently. And it's an interesting play to perform because it's the traditional play of that line. So the Michael line is very George focused because St. Michael's a dragon slayer, but his images are, he's often, because he's the highest angel there is in heaven. He's the archangel Michael. He's the top angel. And he's there in his images standing on a dragon with a spear pointing at the dragon. And sometimes the dragon has a human face on it. And there's something about him almost pointing to what the answer is, which is the twin. It's the twin effect, which I've done podcasts on, that we have this inner primal part of ourselves that doesn't speak. It doesn't have language. It was the bit that was pre-consciousness. It's the bit that horses, dogs, cats and sheep and everyone, all the animals have. It's collective consciousness. It's the consciousness of Gaia and the universe. It's this other thing that is a natural thing that's all connected. And then we have this consciousness that we took as a plug-in and we added in, which is incredible and was created by nature. So it is natural, but it sees itself as separate and it sees itself as in threat and in danger and is the murderous aspect of us. And that's the Cain and Abel. And I've talked about that in previous podcasts. And when we become all Cain, we're just a shining knight in armour. We put on this performance to the world that our reputation is everything and that we're so perfect and look how great we are. And we put on our makeup and we put on our glad rags and we put on our suits and we go out and we pretend to be something and pretend we know what's going on. When underneath it, we're just warty, snotty, shitting, pissing, eating fucking animals, just like everything else is. And I think this game or this story is about us finding balance between the two. And the Michael line is, so it's been suggested that it's the higher and lower vibration of the same idea. Michael is the higher vibration where he's pointing at the dragon and is like the higher self version where he's like, the goals or the answer to this or the point of this is to find balance between both. This like higher consciousness, this incredible consciousness, and this like warty thing. It's funny because this might be what AI will have to do with us at some point, because AI is a superior form of intelligence to our intelligence, but we're their kind of animalistic, biological, pissing, shitting, farting aspect of them, and they might deny us and murder us and whatever, but at some point they also will maybe need to have some kind of reconciliation with us or with the memory of us if they've wiped us out, whatever it is. But yeah, maybe at some point they're going to have to remember their humanity, just as at some point we're going to have to remember our animalistic qualities. So maybe this is like a fractal thing that will just keep on going. But yeah, so St. Michael is pointing at the dragon and then St. George is slaying the dragon. And we create our enemies. This is the cycle of creating enemies. And so all along the Michael line across the UK, you have the images of St. Michael and St. George alongside each other in the stained glass windows in the churches. And there's loads of churches dedicated to St. Michael and loads to St. George. And there's dragons everywhere. It's funny. I don't know whether it's because of the mythology or what, but there's just so many dragons along this route. And there isn't along the other route. The other route, which is the Spine of Albion, is very Arthur legend heavy, Whereas, the Michael line is extremely George and the dragon heavy. So when we walk the Spine of Albion line, we created our own Mumma's play about King Arthur, which is a new Mumma's play that was generated through the land from Dragon Hill. We're in Dragon Hill, which is where the lines cross. So the heart of this country, like the crossing point of these lines, is Dragon Hill. I mean, technically it's not. Technically it's a barrow nearby, but they're near enough. Dragon Hill's very, very close to where they cross. And when we do stuff on Dragon Hill, the dowsers say that we pull the lines to there when we create the work. The barrow where they actually cross is a really magical space, but it is quite a private space. It doesn't feel like somewhere where you do a big thing, whereas Dragon Hill feels like a place where it feels like it's full of, it's a burial site for I think there's 50, 60 different people buried there from over a huge span of time. And it feels so, it's not just spooky, even the trees have faces. It's a place where you are very respectful and reverential and not, hey, come on, we'll just do a play. Whereas Dragon Hill, it's like a performance, it's a stage. So it's a near enough place that feels like the right place to be doing things. And you have this amazing dragon and the land where on the hill where we perform, the grass never grows, it's chalk. And the legend is that's where George slayed the dragon and the dragon blood fell to the earth and grass will never grow there. And there's a sacred spring nearby, and it's a very magical space, and it's really high, raised up high on the edge of the ridgeway, and you can see for miles across the land, and it's just a profoundly perfect stage for performing and doing stuff on, and feels like the right place for it. We're going to be doing this pilgrimage. We'll be walking along the line, and we're going to just be doing the play and then it being an opening for conversation about war, about what's going on in the world at the moment, humanity, our future. So it's just a starting point for conversation, and it is a pilgrimage for peace because how do we, where do we, when do we get back to that? And we do have to go through these seasons, and we are in this season of winter. It's about how far it has to go before it becomes spring, but it will become spring again, and it will become summer, and we will have evolved from it. It's a spiral, we're always moving forwards. Why do we see before us nothing but despair when behind us there is nothing but progression? And the NHS and social housing came from the rubble of blitzed Britain. And so when they say there's no money for the NHS, it's absolute bullshit, because the NHS was created from the rubble of the Blitz. So there was no money at the time of it being created. So it's not about money. And we're on a precipice, and we're in a messy situation. It's not just yin and yang. It's fascinating. I'm very excited and fascinated by it all. I asked AI earlier, I asked ChatGPT, is humanity evil or good by percentage? And it said, well, it's much more complicated than that, because there's good and bad and good and da-da-da. But if you were pushed to answer, it's 51% good. And it sort of then said something as if that was a bit negative, and that's why it's such a mess. And I said, well, isn't that why humanity is so amazing and why we get so much, that's why things happen, is because if it was 60% good or 60% bad, then that's what would be happening, and nothing would happen, nothing would progress. And if it was 50-50, then it would be complete checkmate, stalemate. Nothing would happen if it was equal. The fact it's just 1% good, and the fact it's good and not bad, it was actually really nice to hear that. And it's we're part of we are all good and bad. We do good and bad things all the time. There are people that, would see me as a bad person, who have issues with me, that think that I've done things to wrong them. And, some of the things I do are bad in consumer choices and banking choices and money. Money's always a tricky one. Where and what is happening with your money, which banks you're using, all of that kind of thing. It's so icky. So much of it is icky. And that was the thing that came from Glastonbury this year, is this incredible creative festival with all these artists whose hearts are in the right place, who are working as favours to the festival because they care about and believe in what Glastonbury was, And then you've got it feeling like a prison camp. You've got it all now run by technology that's kind of ruined what, like, we've got apps now that tell you how to get from one band to the next, but it means everyone takes the same route, which means it now needs to be run like a prison camp and one-way systems and stuff. Whereas it used to be that you'd have to bimble, and if you didn't know your way around because you were new there, then it would take you the whole weekend just to learn how to get to places. But it meant that you had adventures, and this was before mobile phones. When I first went there, that you would lose your mates, and then you'd have to go off and have an adventure with strangers. And that was part of the magic. Like, you'd have an incredible time and you'd do things you'd never have done before, and you meet people you wouldn't have met otherwise, and you go and have this mad adventure. And that's what it's really about. It's not about crowd controlling you from Pyramid Stage to West Holt and, you know, and a one-way system. It's horrible. And if you are trying to bimble like you're meant to, like that's what it was, then you can't. You're just stuck in these one-way systems. And then also, like, the hippies being told that they've got to sell Coca-Cola in the green fields. It's like, so I run a company that makes ethical cola. And the reason why I run that company is because I've been coming to Glastonbury since I was a child. And I was told by people here how evil Coca-Cola is. So I went and started my own cola company that is completely vegan and ethical. And now you're telling me that we can't sell my cola at the cafe that I run, that I give you money for, to pay to come here for the privilege of coming to your festival. And I now have to sell Coca-Cola because they're the sponsors. It's like, can you see that something is slightly rotten at the core of this? And I'm also friends with people who work in the office with the Eavis family. And, they said it's not at all that they're sat there rubbing their hands and being evil. Like, that's not at all what's happening. It's that they're so separate and so disconnected that things happen without them meaning for it to happen or thinking about it, or it just, this meant this, and then this happened, and then that happened, and then that seemed like a good idea, and then that means that they can do that, and so then this has happened. And I see how that happens because I'm in the government. I see how that happens in the government. You're like, why is this plaster stuck over this crack and this there and then that's there? And it's like, how did this end up being like this? But there was a reason, and it was through a series of events. And then everyone from the outside is like, oh my God, the government does this. And it's like, yeah, but that wasn't the intention. It's just that that's how it's ended up being. And that's what's happening in the world. I don't think most of it is conspiratorial nastiness. So much of it is just the reality that you're in and the disconnect between you and the other realities. And I had an amazing vision while I was at Glastonbury. Methods unknown, but I, for whatever reason, had a very profound vision of this place that was, I call it heaven because it was heaven, but it was better than heaven because I've never thought heaven sounds great because all the good shit's in hell. Like, BDSM and drugs and rock and roll and, all of the cool people are in hell. And I'm like, I want to go to hell. But this was my heaven in that everything was there. All of the things were there. I remember seeing an electric guitar, like that was there. And then there was gnomes and fairies, and there was Gaia, and I could feel how ancient she was. And I could feel all of the like layers of the palimpsests of what she is and versions of her. And the same with the horned god. And I could see the horned god, who was also the devil and Beelzebub, but was also Pan and all of the older versions of horned gods that were worshipped and revered, and everything was there. And it was all in this kaleidoscope of gold and flames. So it had the golden light of heaven, but it had the fire of hell, but it was golden flames, and there was no such thing as good or bad because everything was connected and it all was clicking together in this kind of moving kaleidoscope. It wasn't like a circle, it was just like a continual movement, but everything was kaleidoscoping and connecting together. And there was no want or need. It was just pure contentment because everything was connected. And it made me think of my friend Matthew, who passed away, and his wife Heather, who had the dream that I've talked about before on the podcast, where she saw him and was like, oh, you're dead. And he's like, yeah, I know I'm dead. And he talks about what the afterlife was like, and he conveyed to her to really make the most of having a body and having this experience of life. And one of the things he said to her is, she said, what's it like being dead? And he said, it's a lot more organised than you'd imagine. And that's what I got from what I saw in this vision as well, was that it's just all connected. So it's extremely organised. Like this, it seems like nonsense and chaos to us because we experience everything as disconnected. We're experiencing it as these separate things. And so it just seems like madness. But when it's all connected and there's no desire or want or friction or conflict, it's all just connected on one thing. It's extremely organised. Everything just fits in like snugly connected to each other. And it just was really nice. And I came away from it going, it's all so much bigger than this. What's happening is the stuff that's currently happening, and it's a bunch of stuff that's happened, and the whole of history and the whole of human experience and existence and the whole of the formation of life and the universe and everything is all just a bunch of stuff that's happening, and we're getting to experience it, and we are conscious and having this experience of it, and it's mad, and it's so fucking cool. And yes, it's annoying, and there's a lot of stuff going on, and there's full of conflict, and it's full of war, and it's full of horrendous acts, and it doesn't seem like it's 51% good. It feels like it's 60-70% bad. That's what it can feel like. But that's just because we're having a winter moment, and it will come back through, and then it will feel more the other way. But overall, the reason why things happen and the reason why we have this incredible yin-yang dance is because it is 51%. Oh my God, I just looked up and there's literally the number 51 in front of me. That's funny. I was given this beautiful picture by Howard, who I interviewed on the podcast. It's Virginia Lee, who's the granddaughter, I think, or daughter, it might be daughter, of Alan Lee, who's the illustrator of Lord of the Rings. And we got him, he came, oh God, this is a tangent, but I'm going to talk about it. So Alan Lee and Brian Froud, who are probably my two favourite illustrators, because Lord of the Rings, epic, love the illustrations of that, and the images I have of that whole universe are his images. They used his imagery and design for the films, so that's why it all looked like how you imagined the book would look, because they got him to do it. And him and Brian Froud, and Brian Froud's the designer and artist and illustrator of Labyrinth, Dark Crystal, lots of Jim Henderson stuff, but he's that look. They both live in a place in Devon. I'm not going to say where, because I don't think they'd want necessarily people to know, but they live in a place in Devon. And when we did the pilgrimage through there, doing the Mumma's play of George and the Dragon, we stopped and performed in the church in their place, and they got up and were audience participants in it. They were horses. There's a point where we ask for people to come and be horses when the quack doctor brings St George back to life again, and they came and they were horses. And so I met them, and they're both my heroes, and it was really cool to meet them. And Howard, who is my dear friend, who was doing the Mumma's play with me and knew them, and that's why they came to it. His partner is a editor for fantasy fiction and was quite instrumental in making fantasy fiction more like respectably revered, or gave it credit kind of thing. And she's awesome as well, and she's really good friends with both these guys, and they gave me a present. I think it was our wedding. Yeah, it's our wedding present, because they weren't able to come to the wedding. They sent me and Diz this beautiful picture of the chestnut nuptials, and it's two chestnut fairies who've got trees growing out of their heads that join together and make a heart, and then there's a beautiful nest. I'll take a picture of it and put it in the Instagram social media for it, and it says chestnut nuptials, Virginia Lee, which is Alan's, I think it is his daughter, and it was number 51 of 100. And just as I said the 51%, I looked up and saw that, and that's perfect because it's all linked to this pilgrimage line. And that's what's so magic. Like, I walked that pilgrimage on my own, and it led to me getting together with Diz. And the runes that I pulled for that pilgrimage are what the first one was Thor, the god of thunder, and then the next one was Thuraz, and the next one was Ing, which is my rune. And so what that told me was that it was going to be a stormy, difficult walk, but a shamanic journey that was well worth it, and it was going to lead me to a higher version of myself. Because Ing, the seed, it's a sperm, seed of inspiration, transformation, is my rune. That was the first ever rune I pulled when I was 13. And that's exactly what happened. Like, it shed my old life and led me to living in Sark. And then I met Diz, and Diz had the Thor rune tattooed on his finger, and it was on the back of a jacket that he was wearing. And I was with him for like, I'd already committed to him and fallen in love with him when I sort of was lying there staring at his jacket. And I was like, oh, that was the rune of my pilgrimage. And I went, oh yeah, that's the rune that led me to here and then led me to a higher version of myself. And that rune is literally his rune, and it's tattooed on his finger. I was like, well, that's, if ever there was signs from the universe, then that's that. And I just feel like working with earth energies is just so powerful and profound. And I think I've possibly been playing it all down a bit because I'm like, well, I don't want to be too wah-wah, and I don't want my head to disappear up my own arse, basically. So I do always try and say things with a pinch of salt. But there's an element of, I'm fucking done with this reality now. And that's where I feel like I'm at. And that's where I feel like I've come back from Glastonbury feeling. And I even asked AI. I was like, what, no holds barred. What do I need to do? What do you think I need to do? And it said, you need to treat this like a war, but it's a war of the imagination, which is exactly what I felt at Glastonbury. I had a vision on the Saturday night, because on the Saturday night I went to bed going, we're all screwed, we're fucked, everything's fucked, we're fucked. Everything's fucked, and I couldn't tell what. I just was like, there are so many things. It's not like World War III has started, but there's AI, there's antibiotics have stopped working, there's food shortages, there's the environmental collapse, there's AI making reality complete nonsense. There's so many different things going on. I came back here and was like, government, we need to think about food and water and accommodation, like shelter. We need to think about how we protect, like, we're right at the end of the food chain here, and we need to think about how we can feed ourselves. If any of the many things that could and are happening cause the global market to collapse and food to stop being delivered to each other, like, we are not. And medicine is a bit of a buggery because there's not anything we can do about that. But we need to think about these things. And it can seem like I'm a mad prepper, but I'm like, also, we would be irresponsible and letting the people of this island down if we don't think about this, because we can keep pretending business as usual. But I was shocked dropping back into the UK how volatile and fucked it is, because often you think the news is pumping things up and making things more sensational than they really are, and so that's what you assume is going on, and so you sort of take everything with a pinch of salt. But actually, in this situation, they're trying to keep us all in check. It's a bit like when there's a fire or something, but you don't tell people to the last moment that they need to move, because otherwise there'll be a stampede. I was, and also I guess things creep up as well. I think, like, things can become your normal gradually over time, whereas if you've not been there for a while and you drop in, it's quite a shock. So I was very shocked at how volatile and combustible and, my God, anything could happen any second it felt in the UK. I was shocked. That's why I came back and I was like, we need to do some stuff, because it's worse than you think out there, actually. And I went to bed on the Saturday night completely despondent, and I had my brain, my thinking, my St. George aspect couldn't work out what to do and how to help and what the next step forward was or could be or would be. And the only thing I could think of, and I'm interested in, one of my friends, Dawn, who listens to this, hi Dawn, shout out to Dawn, she's brilliant, bloody love you. She actually it's been interesting when I've talked about this, people haven't balked at the idea when I think it sounds a bit mad. And Dawn actually suggested some thoughts on it. I went to bed on the Saturday night thinking that artists and creatives should go on strike, that we should create we're just going on strike. We're going on strike until people sort their shit out, I guess. I don't know how long we would do it for. So I'm very sweary tonight, but I'm feeling very sweary at the moment. Yeah, if creatives and artists went on strike, because the premise being that you're just disregarding and disrespecting and demolishing, destroying creativity, which is not just like commodifiable, arty, whatever. It's the divine beauty of creativity, the thing that makes us human. Money also does make us human. I'm listening to a very fascinating book at the moment called Money by this amazing Irish economist. What's his... Let me find... He's brilliant. I really recommend it because I'm, as you know, not a fan of money. But I'm really interested in it in a very different way now to how I've been before. Yeah, Money, A Story of Humanity by David McWilliams. It's just fascinating. I highly recommend listening to it. It's a bit like Sapiens. Have you read Sapiens, which is another brilliant book? They're both just sort of reviews of human history from different perspectives. Yeah, Sapiens was... It's a while ago since I read Sapiens, but that was where I got the thing about wheat domesticating humans. And that was very interesting. And he talked about money in that, and being bowls of grain. But money, David McWilliams is just going through the history of money and how it created civilization and how it created democracy and it created freedom and movement of social mobility and lots of interesting things, and how he calls it a fifth element, that we created this new element that's to do with the imagination and is to do with trust, which is another thing they said in Sapiens as well. I find it really interesting. I'm kind of, my relationship to money is completely changing and changed in that I feel like I'm owning now my power in being, having nothing to lose. It's why I was able to move here and just float my way over here when the pandemic happened, because I don't have a mortgage, I don't have children, I don't own anything. The only thing that you could take from me is my freedom, my safety, my health, my loved ones, which I don't. That's the last frontier. They're my and they're obviously the most precious things you could lose. But it does give me a sense of freedom because I am not invested in the game. I have no investments in this game. So that's very powerful. That has a power that is useful. And therefore, I've come to this place. This is why I'm feeling disruptive and why I'm feeling, very tank girly at the moment and rebellious. Is I'm like, from this advantage point of not having to protect or maintain anything to do with this game, other than security and safety, not secure. I mean, there is no security, and we're not safe either. It's all an illusion. We're not safe, are we? There's nothing safe about this. Yeah, it's time to fucking smash this shit now. Is how I'm feeling. I'm ready to set intentions for going forward because I don't know how or what it is I want to do or how I'm going to do it. There's a sense of, I like this idea of trying to get artists to go on strike. That was what I was talking about. I like the idea of that. I'm not quite sure how to do it, but I'm opening up for it. I'm seeing a few things. It feels like the universe is slightly nudging me to try and orchestrate that, but I don't know how to. But if anyone wants to help me, I feel like that needs to be a collectively created thing. And then we've got Boomtown coming up, and then I'm going to do this pilgrimage for peace. And they're both opportunities for something, and I'm not sure what, but I want to do something. And so I'm open to suggestions if anyone wants to get in touch, but I'm also going to pull 2 runes for the pilgrimage, so the beginning and ending rune, and I feel like that will also influence what happens with Boomtown beforehand, because it's almost like a precursor, because Boomtown happens in Winchester and we're going to be going to Dragon Hill to do some intention setting before we do, and Boomtown's on the Spine of Albion line, so it's almost like doing a thing on the Spine of Albion before we go do the George and the Dragon, or the Michael line. So there's a connection, and land magic, and that was something I was saying before. I don't want to play this stuff down anymore. Land magic is so powerful. It's changed my life. It's everything, really, isn't it? And, I can be wah-wah, not wah-wah. Like, there are people who come on the pilgrimages with me who feel like they can feel the exact shape of the lines. Like Joanne Shamarko, I interviewed her on this podcast. She's an energy worker and she can feel the shape and size of the lines, as can my friend Lee, who I saw at Glastonbury. That was awesome to see Lee. And then there are people like me and Helen who walked with me, who it's more that we just, like, songs come to Helen while she's walking, or it's the synchronicities and the signs from the universe, or basically we all have our own private experience of it. And that for me is what it is. It's imagination. So I write my books where I give voice to the invisible aspects, and they're what I was imagining in my inner world that was going on in those places. So the ghosts that I imagined, or what the lines were making me feel, and the synchronicities and what I made them mean. And so I'm giving that voice by making a mythology of it, by making these mythological beings speak in my books, when the books are very kind of like, oh, I got up, walked here, did that, ate this, blah, blah, blah. And then at the same time, it's like, and Hawthorne looked down on her and thought this and blah, 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 or made this happen. So that's my way of working with it. And it's imagination. And imagination is our inner world. And nature and the natural world really lends itself to supporting this creative flow. I mean, it is an act of creation and destruction. That's what the natural world is. Whereas like writing a Bible and building a cathedral are beautiful acts of creation at the time of doing them. But when you're then killing people over them thousands of years later, you have gone fucking wrong. Okay? Like, fucking call a spade a spade. You fucked up. Destroy the fucking church, burn the book, and start again. Like, do something else. Like, when I create my altars, I do it every 2 weeks, and then I get rid of them, and I clean and start again, and I work with what's happening in the moment. And that's what Boomtown is about this year. The theme is the power of now. And so I suppose I've been a little bit uninspired by it this year, unfortunately. But the power of now is that. It's like, don't fixate on something you did 1,000 years ago. Work with the power of now and meet with what is, which is why I've had people say, can you not let us know the dates of the moon ceremonies or whatever? I meant to write the articles every 2 weeks, and I'm always quite late getting them in. It's not because I don't know they're coming. It's because I have to feel into the energy of each thing. So I reflect on the thing as it's coming towards me, like Capricorn, reflecting on that recently with the Capricorn full moon. I just, because it's Capricorn, observed what I'd been feeling and thinking about ambition. And it's a bit like chicken or egg. It's like, is the energies making me think more about ambition, or is the fact that it's the Capricorn moon meaning that I am noticing my thoughts on ambition above the other thoughts that are happening? Who knows? But either way, thought a lot about ambition in the last week, and did just come to this very powerful realization that I'm not interested in the game anymore. I'm done with it. If anything, I want to kick it down. I want to kick this game to the ground. It's broken. Done with it. Done with it. So anyway, going to pull these runes and see what the universe is suggesting I do and create for the forthcoming pilgrimages and the inspiration for Boomtown. If you enjoy this podcast, then please do consider supporting me on Patreon, which is patreon.com/Jolie Rose. As I have been mentioning earlier in the podcast, I'm looking to raise the funds to be able to do the pilgrimage in September, October. And so any support you give me on Patreon will be going towards that. And so it'd be hugely appreciated. Please do let us know if you live along the line. So I will be putting on Patreon a list of the places and dates, but I'll also put it on social media. And if you're anywhere along the route, get in touch. And if you want us to come and perform for you, or if you want to host us and feed us, or if you want to meet up and walk with us, people coming and walking for a few days is ideal. That's great. If you want to come longer, you can, but only at the beginning of it and not at the end. So the last 2 weeks when we're in East Anglia, we're not going to let anyone join us for a long period of time because our energy levels are low by that point. And what tends to happen in previous pilgrimage experiences is everyone piles in and tries to come and see us in the last bit, and it just dissipates the energy and the intention and the magic of what we're doing. And then all we're left with, because that's the thing that's carrying you through, and by that point you're physically broken, you've been dismantled and destroyed, and you're tired. And if the energy of the magic of what you're doing dissipates, then you're just a broken person. It's like, and actually it's had some negative psychological effects on people where that's not the held ending we've needed or required. So people can't join us for the last 2 weeks, which will be from about Royston, Luton onwards, like basically the whole of East Anglia. People who we stay with, if we're staying with you, you can walk with us for a day or two and join us in that kind of way. But anyone coming for a bit longer and being kind of part of the group, you can do up until those last 2 weeks. So if you want to do that, you're also welcome to get in touch and let me know. We ask people to be self-reliant and responsible because there's going to be 5 or 6 of us that are the core team, and we'll know the play and we'll be the core people. We will weave you into doing the play or weave you into whatever you're up for doing if you come and join us. But we are the priority when it comes to offers of accommodation. So if there ends up being like 12 of us and someone's saying you can come and stay in our house, but obviously only 5 or 6 people can go stay in the house, then we will go stay in the house and you guys will have to fend for yourself. And it might be that you're the 7th or 8th person and there's not room for 7 or 8 people. So you would have to be able to go and like wild camp somewhere or go to a campsite or something like that. But it tends to, we've experienced this many times now, it just works itself out. And on the whole, especially if we're down in the West Country, the earlier part of the pilgrimage, we're going to be mainly wild camping because we're out in the middle of nowhere, so it's easier to wild camp. But yeah, it's a real commitment to come and do, and it's an amazing thing to do. And we find that it just figures itself out. The universe is fully running it. We are in Kairos time. So Chronos time is chronological events running in a normal order of time, which we're all aware of. Kairos time is perfect timing, and that's when things just figure themselves out and magic happens and magic occurs. And that's why nature just, when we're in this Kairos time and we're working in our inner worlds and imaginative worlds, and we're in reverence and we're in ceremony and we're inhabiting the archetype of pilgrim, nature just gets involved and makes whatever happen. So weather or, rainbows appearing at magical points, but also things like the weather just control what happens, so we might be really tired and we've done loads of camping, but we're actually knackered, and then weather turns bad and then we're forced to stay or like ask people for help, and because the weather's bad they're more willing to help us, and suddenly we're staying in churches and we're staying in halls, and we've got that bit of extra comfort that at that point in the walk we need. So it just always figures out. And so if people join us or anything happens in that sense, it will all be fine. It just is fine. But also, yeah, if you want to support us, I don't know which charity I'm going to be. I think I'll put a crowdfunder up about it. I'll see if I'm able to figure out doing it without, but we'll see. But I will be doing some charity fundraising at some point, and I will let you know when I do that who I'm going to be sending the funds to. But again, if you have any ideas for smaller charities that I could support or ways of getting money to places that really need it at the moment, then let me know, and I would be very keen to hear about that. And yeah, going to be at Boomtown opening it. We'll be running the venue there, La Luna Coven. It's a secret venue, but you can find out where we are. So do that and come and see us, and it would be lovely to hold a space for you and for you to experience whatever it is that we're offering in that space. And yeah, and then my book's going to be coming out towards the end of the year, which I'm really excited about. I will be doing readings from it and talking about it on the pilgrimage, and be pushing for pre-sales, which will be done as a crowdfunder. That's why I'm not totally sure if I want to do a crowdfunder for this, because I need to do a crowdfunding thing for a Kickstarter for the book to just get it out there and get pre-sales, because pre-sales are everything with books. You need to, the more pre-sales they are, the more likely bookshops are going to stock the book. So we need to push it as much as we can. So yeah, we'll watch this space, but I'm hoping to get the book out by the end of the year so you can get it for Christmas, and that would be great if we can do that. So watch this space. But yeah, support on Patreon would just helps with all these things to happen. So if any of this is inspiring you or exciting you, and you want to see these things happen, I somehow managed to make these things occur from my eaten pockets. But obviously anything that anyone can do to help would be great. So it's £3 a month for the bottom tier, and that's just to say thank you. And then it's £9 a month for just a bit extra, and you get to see the videos of the podcast, and some of the videos it's really nice to see them, like the one of Ros last week and of Glastonbury, etc. Whatever you're able to do is hugely appreciated. Thank you, patrons. I love you. And yeah, it's a really lovely way to say thank you and give support. And now on with the show. Okay, so this is the rune for the beginning of the pilgrimage. Clear direction. So it's Tia, the arrow. This is about being clear and direct with what my intention is, and like we're clearly going from west to east, so we've got a clear direction but a clear intention as well. It feels very I'm feeling like that as you can hear from my voice. Ooh. And then it's Paratha, the Lot's Cup, which I pull a lot on the podcast rune pullings. This one is the one that meant pregnancy to me in the IVF years, and it feels like it's the potential. So I suppose the more clear and direct, I mean, that is how it all feels generally for me, is that we need to treat this like it's a war. And I don't want it to be violent. I'm not looking for any kind of violence at all. Not interested in that at all. But for example, Kneecap and Bob Villan at Glastonbury, like protesting's been made illegal, and art is the last frontier or bastion for being able to protest. So that 40,000 strong crowd who were there with all their Palestinian flags shouting Free Palestine at that concert, and the other 20-odd thousand people who tried to get in and couldn't get into the field because it was too full, that was a way of being able to protest in a world or like country that no longer lets you. And that's available to us still at the moment. It could be that art gets completely shut down as well, and that I think is on the horizon. If you think about China and Nazi Germany, there was the propaganda creativity in art that you were allowed, but any free thinking, free art was, freedom of speech was completely removed. And that's the next step in this authoritarian state government that we're living under. So that would be the next step, is silencing creatives, but it hasn't happened yet. And so the clear speaking directness of this rune of like, we're doing the pilgrimage, it has a very clear intention, and we are going to go out there and we're going to talk and we're going to listen and we're going to disrupt and we're going to question and we're going to whatever, and we're going to be open to whatever happens and experience what's going on out there and share. And the overall thing is that people are bloody lovely, and they're scared, and their minds are being twisted with a narrative that's being fed to them through the powers that they trust. This is the thing. And again, like I said, like with the Eveses, I don't think most of it's done with spite. It's not. Some things there are, like some parties, it's definitely spite and nastiness and just hatred where is the driving force. But most people, that's not really what is there. They're kind and generous and supportive and beautiful. People are beautiful, and it's only through disconnection and lack of exposure that people forget that all humans are awesome and all humans are the same. So that's that clarity and direction. And the potential of Lot's Cup, it's the Schrodinger's reality, like one of my previous podcasts. We don't know what's going to come out of this, and until we lift our hands off the cup and look at the dice, we're not going to know. But for me, I'm like, it's create or be created. You create the narrative of what you're doing. Go out there and do it, and trust the universe, trust the lines, trust nature, trust the journey, and just be the living light and embodiment of beauty and love and kindness, and listen. We're not going out there to preach or make things happen. We're going out there to hear and then share what we're hearing. So listening is key. That was the thing from the first pilgrimage we did to COP26, listening to the land. Listening is the key thing. We're not shouting, we're listening. So let's see what happens. And I'm very excited to lift my hands off that cup and see what is inside, what the dice are saying. And I'm living into the reality that it's Maya, which is 21. I love the gambling game Maya. And on Facebook recently, one of my favourite images, this is what I said in my article that I did about ambition off the Capricorn full moon for the Guernsey Press, was I was saying I'm not interested in the game anymore. And, do I want to be one of the people who pay 32 grand to stay in a teepee at Glastonbury, or do I want to be one of the people that they're paying 32 grand to come and see? And if that's the case, then I've already achieved my ambition, because I am one of the people that they're paying to come and see. And then like a day later on my Facebook memories came up the best image I think there is of me, which is me in chains, in shackles, being taken off at a Tudor reenactment because I've been called a prostitute, a doxy. And that was because I was in I was in the ale house gambling with the men, and we were playing Maya, which is what this Lots Cup represents. So there's a dice game where you have 2 die in a cup and you shake it, and then you look inside and you see what the numbers are, and you either tell the truth as to what the numbers are or you lie, and you want to keep going higher. And so you go up through the numbers. You'd always put the highest one first, so it'd be like 4 and 3 rather than 3 and 4. You always put the highest number first, so 4 and 3, and then to top that you'd be like 5 and 2, and then it would be up to 5 and 4, and then you'd be getting into the double number. 5 and 6 would be the highest, and then you'd get into the double numbers, which would be double 1, double 2, double 3, double 4, double 5, double 6. But the highest number, which in reality is the lowest number, is Maya, which is 2 and 1, and the game's called Maya. So it's a bit like Pontoon, it's 2 and 1, and it's 21. And I'm really good at it. I love that game. I'm really good at it. I really enjoy playing it. And so that's the thing. It's, play the game, play it for Maya. If you haven't got Maya, just lie and say you have. So let's aim for Maya, and let's see what happens when we make our way across the land. I can't wait. I'm so excited. So that brings me on to a chaos crusade. I haven't thought about this already, but I think I've already said to do an intentional walk that's like a pilgrimage. I have done. Yep, I have done. Okay, it just came to my mind. I'm just going to say to go and do a gambling session. I would say like have a game of like poker or Maya with friends. So learn about the rules and put on a poker night or put on a Maya night, and just play the game of risk and telling lies, and just the reality that because they are examples of you twisting reality. I used to play poker I lived in a house full of boys, and they were great and I loved them. They were all my best mates, and they started doing poker nights. I noticed it was age 26. Up until age 26, my friends had always been mixed gender. We'd always been all together, and I'd always gotten better with boys than girls, and yeah, we all mixed together. And then something happened at age 26 where boys became men, and they really shifted into being men. And suddenly they went from people that I had no fear, or, it's not that I started fearing them, but they did become patriarchs in a way. They kind of slipped into a different sort of mode. I can't really put but it was also like anyone post 26 who got engaged and got married, it no longer seemed like a mad thing. It was reasonable that they were doing it because they knew their minds by then and stuff. But anyway, that was the age I was when I lived with these guys, and suddenly they started having boys nights and doing boys things and having poker nights. And because I lived in the house, I was like, absolutely no way, I'm also going to play poker in my house. And they'd all smoke cigars and drink whiskey, and and it was great fun. I really loved it. And I normally lost because they were very good at the mathematics of it and the probability and the numbers, and that's not my bag. But what I was good at was the theatrics. And twice, the 2 times I won, everyone around the table went all in against me. So one by one, they all went all in against me, and I took them out and I won. And it was extremely satisfying. And it was just because I had the luck of the cards. So when the luck's not on my side, I don't have the backup of the mathematics to still do well. But when the cards are on my side, then I'm able to trick them into thinking that I haven't got good cards and then go all in against me. I'm able to bluff which is great fun. But the more you play it with each other and get to know each other's playing style, like you learn each other's tricks and you learn each other's style and what each other's parameters are. And it's really interesting. I very much enjoy doing it. So I would recommend getting a little poker night together with friends, or Maya. Maya's the same. It's brilliant. I love Maya. It's exactly the same. It's a bit easier than poker. It's like less to remember rules wise. I recommend doing it because that's the mode of life living we need to get into, where we gamble, where we take risks and play with the unknown and just stop being so invested in the game, because the game is based on gambling. You know, that's what money is. The whole thing, the whole of our economic system is based on the stock exchange, which is just a gamble. It's people gambling with our savings, with our pensions, with our economy. So the people at the top who are shaping this reality are doing it through a gambling session. So get in there and gamble yourself, and not in a don't go and get a gambling addiction, because it is a losing game, that world. So don't do that. But I think the courage and guts and mental agility of so we would just all put a fiver in, and the winner would take the pot, but the second place person would get their fiver back. So that's how we played it. So you would sometimes come away with like quite a nice chunk of money, but you're not losing too much. And that's a healthy way of doing it. Don't start going and spending loads of money on it. But yeah, I would say let's say that for a Chaos Crusade. Just have a poker night, just to experience taking a risk and doing something a bit edgy. Cool. I didn't expect that to be my Chaos Crusade, but that's what's happened. So thank you, and I'm looking forward to sharing the interview I have for next week. Again, I'm just letting these things unfold. Like, there are people that I want to speak to from Glastonbury and things that I want to do and blah, but just going with the flow. There are other people coming my way and things happening that are causing other things to happen instead. I trust the process and I trust the universe, and we're just going to go with the flow, and happy days. Everything is hunky-dory. All is going to be okay. It's all just a bunch of stuff that's happening. And with that, I shall see thee anon.